Chapter 1. This wasn't the life I chose. And this sure wasn't the way I figured the world was run. One day, I'm a mixed martial arts fighter trying to make a name for myself, and then suddenly I'm the chosen savior of the Mani people, or vampires, or whatever the hell they are we are. How the hell was I supposed to live as a vampire? Or as an eagle? It wasn't like I could transition and become an eagle whenever I felt like it. Some redneck would probably shoot me out of the sky. I am now a Mani. Not by choice. Manis are vampires. Not your everyday Dracula vampires either. We don't turn into bats or fog. We can turn or transition into specific birds whenever we feel like it. The men transition into black ravens and the women into red hawks. Me? Hell, I transfer into a giant white eagle. Yeah, you heard it right, an eagle. I was the lucky one. I was the chosen. Somehow, somewhere I was the one to bring harmony to the Mani. Me? Of all people, I was chosen to save some crazy vampire race from going extinct? Are you fucking kidding me? Who wants that pressure? I sure as hell didn't. 1 month ago I didn't believe that vampires or werewolves even existed. Now, I have been given the keys to the kingdom? Who the hell am I? This was supposed to be Attikai's job. Freaking Attikai. What the hell happened to him? Did I kill him? Where did he disappear to? Did he go to some kind of Mani heaven or hell? I had no answers. The only ones who could give me the answers I needed I was avoiding. It had been 2 weeks since the night I became a Mani. I was turned into this unwillingly, and I hadn't quite wrapped my brain around that fact. My life as I once knew it was over. It is absurd to think that I could be okay with that thought. My life as I knew it was over. Sure, I needed time. That's what I did. I barricaded myself in my house. I had enough to eat and enough to drink. Wanted nothing to do with anyone or anything. Seriously? What did they expect me to do? Just assume the role of some chosen prophesied vampire and go along with their delusional ideas without even saying a word? The Triad never gave me a vision, the Triad never gave me a heads up. Where were my premonitions? Where were my dreams? Dreams? That's a good one. I don't know if I even sleep anymore. It's like I close my eyes and rest. Time skips as if I was dreaming. I feel my muscles rebuilding, but somehow the sleep part escapes me. Do I sleep or do I regenerate? Do I dream or do I plot? Also, shouldn't those blood cravings be kicking in right about now? I thought. Vampires roamed the earth trying to find a good vein. Hell, any vein. So far, everything I eat seems to go down fine. I really had no idea what was myth or truth when it came to living as a creature of the night. The only vampire facts I knew I had read from books and seen in movies. And I think watching Vampire Sucks a dozen times on cable was the best source to finding out vampire information. I'm waiting for this uncontrollable desire for human blood to take over all my senses. The only thing I have been craving these days is a mean peanut butter and jelly sandwich. So unless there is some secret human blood ingredient in Jiffy peanut butter, I hadn't been hit with any intense cravings yet. One thing that was definitely not myth is sunlight. Unless I transition to the eagle, I can't cope in any kind of daylight. Gives me the same dehydrated, overheated feeling that I get after a fight. I feel nauseous until I get out of the sun. Yari and Lena have both tried to contact me every day. I ignore their calls and their unannounced knocks at the door. What the hell did they expect? Turned into a freaking vampire trying to save both of their lives. I was going to need some space to come to terms with my new reality. My old reality consisted of training to be a mixed martial arts fighter and hanging out with Tommy, my best friend in the world. Apparently Tommy isn't even his real name. It's Cairo, and he had been living as a werewolf the whole time I'd known him. Tommy being a werewolf wasn't the thing that concerned me. What was on my mind was if he was alive or not. He had been pronounced dead and sent to the hospital morgue. Did he come back to life and take off? And I had no idea where he went or if he was still alive. I really needed Tommy right now. He is my only family. Maybe he could shed some light on all of this. Unfortunately, it was summertime. Not only was it hot as balls in Southern California, it didn't get dark till about 8:30 at night. I had finally become restless and sick of being cooped up in my house. I didn't want to talk to any Mani yet, but I wanted to leave the house, get out and stretch my legs. I was lying on my bed staring at the ceiling. I looked at the clock. It was 9 p.m. That meant it was officially dark and it was safe for me to go. Outside, I had some serious cabin fever and really needed a change of venue. Had been wearing nothing but basketball shorts for days and I figured I was in desperate need of a shower and a change of clothes. I stood up and stared at myself in the mirror. I had lost weight. My body was more slender and paler than I remember ever being. My six-pack looked more like ribs etched in my skin. My blonde hair seemed a bit darker than before. Yeah, I definitely needed a shower. I peeled off my shorts and walked naked down the hallway to my bathroom. I turned on the shower. There was nothing like a scalding hot shower to lighten my mood. I always liked hot showers and tonight was no different. I took a 10-minute shower, wondering if it was the greatest I had ever taken. The water felt amazing. The shower penetrated my muscles. I couldn't believe how refreshed I felt when I got out. I dried myself off and went to the bedroom. I decided to wear a pair of 501 jeans out of my closet and put on a plain black t-shirt. I decided to put on some hiking boots and I put on some Drakkar Noir. It was an old-school cologne that seemed to appease my sensibility. The smell was sweet like the woods with a touch of pine. Wyatt and Hector brought my truck back and left me a text message telling me they'd dropped it off, leaving the keys under the fender. Wyatt had sent me a text message and told me they'd dropped it off. I liked my white truck. It was one of the constants in my life and I needed reminders of who I once was. That was going to be very important to me. I stepped outside and took a deep breath. Wow, the air felt good. It was the first time I had been outside in days. Sure enough, my white Ford truck was in the driveway. It was a beauty. I walked over to my truck, found the keys, and got in. I put the key in the ignition. This was the first time I was going to drive as Amani. Why did I even have to drive? I could transition into an eagle and go wherever the hell I wanted to. But tonight I needed to drive. Wanted to feel normal. Have a little bit of fun and just forget for a couple of hours. I put on some tunes. Damn it. A hip-hop station. I hated hip-hop. Give me the Beatles or Depeche Mode any day. I scanned the radio and found a song I liked. It was classic Pink Floyd. That was exactly what I needed right now to feel comfortably numb. I leaned back and closed my eyes. I had no idea where I was going. I was just going. I got on the 215 freeway and headed towards Orange County. There is a lot more going on in that direction. I was in desperate need of a beer or a shot or both. The 215 became the 91, and I headed to the 55 freeway. I carried a fake since I was 17. I used it often when Tommy and I would go to local bars. Tommy had mentioned this dive bar called Slammers off the freeway and it was about time I checked it out. I took the exit and headed to the hole in the wall. The parking lot wasn't big. In fact, it was packed to the rim. Parked my truck in the only space that was open. The parking lot was full of pickup trucks and rundown cars. This was not going to be the type of bar that served high society. I sure as hell didn't care. I was the furthest thing from that crowd. I cautiously got out of my car. I wasn't here to pick up chicks, but I stopped and looked in my driver's side mirror anyway. I brushed my hair back. I looked good. I knew I had some serious game. Maybe I flirt a little bit. I started towards the bar. The parking lot was torn up as if a construction crew had gone through and ripped it apart. This was the kind of place where a fight would break out and the police wouldn't show till 20 minutes later. My kind of place. I walked up to the guy at the door. He was an African-American fellow and seemed bored to death. I pulled out my wallet and showed him my ID. He looked over my driver's license before he asked, "Hey, you're some kind of fighter, aren't you?" I was shocked. Not too many people recognized me. He must have been a fan of the sport. I used to be. I'm retired. You're kind of young to be retired. He began sizing me up. It's a tough sport, I murmured. As I remember, you're a tough son of a bitch. He handed me back my ID. Just keep it classy in there. I smiled at the irony of that statement. Entered the bar and the room felt like it was 120 degrees. There were a number of people sitting and drinking at tables, playing darts and shooting pool. Yeah, my kind of place. There was a lot of facial hair in this place. Beards, sideburns, and goatees were an obvious prerequisite to get into this joint. I hadn't shaved in a couple weeks, so I assumed I was going to fit in. Boy, was I wrong. I scoped out the joint to find a place to sit. This was a definite sausage fest. There were a few girls in the joint, but none seemed like they were here to do anything other than get shit-faced with their friends. Something caught my eye in the back of the bar. Or should I say someone? There was the largest man I had ever seen. He looked like a Sasquatch. He had a braided brown goatee and a bald head shaved down to his scalp. Just his presence alone demanded respect, and believe me, he had it. I wasn't in the mood to kick the biggest guy in the bar's ass tonight. Thank God. But damn, he was a beast. Spotted an open stool in front of the bar area. I didn't want to make much eye contact because I really just wanted to chill out and drink. I did feel like every eye in the bar was on me. Even Sasquatch in the back was aware I was in the bar. They must not get too many new folks in this place, I thought. I walked up to the bar and sat on the lopsided stool in front of the counter. No wonder nobody was sitting here. The bartender's back was to me. Hey, buddy, I said. I'll have a vodka Coke. The bartender turned around and he too had a goatee for days. He looked at me, slowly shook his head and then turned back around. Excuse me, I repeated. I'd like a vodka Coke. The bartender turned around again and motioned for me to lean in so he could speak in my ear. I obliged. He whispered in my ear. Get the fuck out of here, you piece of shit. I don't serve your kind. And then he took a step back and smiled as if he had told me, good wishes. My kind. I said, shocked. What the hell are you talking about? We're both white males in our 20s, except that you need a shave and a bath. We're practically the same guy. Listen, you money fuck. I can have about 10 carnais over here in 2 seconds. So you either leave peacefully, or we all can have some fun tonight at your expense. I was completely surprised by the bartender's comment. He knew I was a Mani? How could he tell? How do you know? I asked. Are you fucking kidding me? I need to know. How could you tell? The bartender stared at me with utter amazement. I can smell the filth on you. You reek. Is that because you are a carnai? Are you fucking for real, man? The bartender was not having any more of my questions. I didn't care. I persisted. I needed to know. Are you carnai? Is that why? You have 5 seconds to leave. Tell me and I'll go. The bartender whistled across the bar. That was my cue to leave. He wasn't playing games. Damn it, I didn't even get a fucking drink. I turned around and headed for the door. I could feel every eye in the place on me. My senses were tingling. This wasn't good. I hurried out the front door and did not turn around. I passed the doorman. Was he a carnai? Did he set me up? I was now in the parking lot and I could hear people behind me. I got to my truck and reached into my pocket to grab my keys. I dropped them and leaned over to pick them up. Why was I so nervous? I unlocked my driver side door and got into my truck. How the hell was I supposed to know this was a werewolf bar? Is there such a thing? Was I going to be running into this all the time? Have I been going to werewolf bars and clubs for a while now and never even known it? I slid my key into the ignition. I put my truck in reverse and began pulling out of the parking lot. Without warning, a man jumped on the hood of my truck. Like a wild animal, I slammed the brakes. The man leaped over my windshield and into the bed of my truck. I jumped out of my vehicle. I guess this was going to go down. Damn it. Why the hell do things always have to go down with me? What the hell, man? I yelled at the idiot in the bed of my truck. I turned around and there were 5 guys coming up behind me, one of them that 7-foot monster. Fucking great. Look, I don't want any trouble. I yelled to the men approaching me. You asked for it, you Mani scum, the moment you set foot in our bar. The smallest of the men called out. That was usually the case. The runt of the group always seemed to be the loudest. I had no idea what I was up against if they all decided to jump me. How do I defeat werewolves? I'm pretty sure all these guys were carnai. I had no idea how strong they could be. I knew that Mani's strength was off the charts. Look, I said. This is all kind of new to me, so let's just call it a mistake and I'll go on my way. Haha. He's a newbie, the runt yelled out again. Poor bastard. He's just trying to find his way. Exactly, I replied, knowing full well I was being mocked by the little shit. Well, just to let you know, rookie, the little man continued, when we have a dispute we don't settle it in bar parking lots. We have specific locations where we settle our scores. That way the Tandra don't have to be involved in our business. I don't have a score to settle with any of you. I made a big mistake coming here. I'll just leave This pretty boy is breaking my heart, the guy in the bed of my truck said. You almost want to just kill him here and put him out of his misery. Is that what you think? I asked. That I'm a pretty boy? Now my blood, or whatever runs through my veins, was boiling. It didn't matter if I was human or vampire. I was still going to get no respect because of how I looked. Okay, so how does this work? Do I fight one of you, all of you, or do I just pick which of you has the least teeth and we go from there? This is between you and me. A voice came from the bar entrance. It was the bartender. He had made his way out to the parking lot. He was about my height and about 30 pounds heavier. You? I asked. Why? Because I ordered a drink. No, because this is my bar and you disrespected it by coming here knowing full well you aren't welcome. For your information, I was just telling the boys from Deliverance here that I haven't looked online yet at which carni bars and restaurants I needed to avoid. This is all kind of new to me. Mistake or not, you fucked up. We'll meet at 2:30 at Barner's Ranch in the hills. Where the hell is that? I moaned. Someone get this fucker a GPS system or a Thomas guide. It's up in Anaheim hills. Take Imperial Highway as high as you can. You can't miss it. It's the last ranch you hit before the mountains. So go round up your money cohorts and we'll make it a party. I stared at the bartender. If he was a human, I knew I could kick his ass in seconds. But I had no idea how strong a werewolf was. Did they only get strong on a full moon? I had no idea what the hell I was up against. I sighed and asked, Are we done here? You better show up, Blondie, or we'll hunt you down. Hunt me down? You serious? The bartender glared at me back and I looked him in the eye. I'll be there, Scruffy. The guy on the bed of my truck hopped off on cue. How did this happen? Wasn't gone for an hour and I seemed to have pissed off all of Carni Nation. Cautiously got into my truck. My door was still open from when I jumped out. Got in slowly and started my engine. I closed my door. I eased out of the parking lot, making sure I didn't hit any of those assholes. God knows I wanted to. What the hell did I just get myself into? A fight? At some ranch? What is this? The Outsiders? I looked at the clock and it read 10 p.m. I had 4.5 hours before this stupid fight. They wanted me to round up my Mani counterparts. Do I have Mani counterparts? I knew 4 Mani and none of them would be eager to come with me to a slaughter. I decided it was time to go find Lena. I had ignored her long enough. I had enough time to find her before the fight. I just hoped she wasn't too pissed at me for ignoring her. I pulled into a Taco Bell parking lot. I figured I would transition into the Eagle so I could get to Lena's home faster. I hadn't transitioned from Mani to Eagle that many times, and to be honest, I wasn't sure how to fully control. It wasn't like I could say something like a la chasm, and I was now an Eagle. I put my keys under my seat and left my door unlocked. I got out and walked behind a dumpster so no one could see me. I closed my eyes and imagined I was turning into the White Eagle. First, nothing happened. How the hell did I do this before? I relaxed and concentrated. I felt a rush of wind come over my body. This is what happens when I transition. In an instant, my eye level dropped 3 feet. I was no longer 6 feet in height. I was a 3-foot tall eagle. I tilted my head to look at my body and extended my wings. Something caught my eye across the street. My reflection in the glass of an office building was magnificent. Damn, I was beautiful. What a gorgeous creature. For a brief second, I forgot I was looking at myself. It was like I was at a nature exhibit, staring at some rare extinct eagle. But I wasn't. Was staring at myself. I was the White Eagle. For the first time, the reality of me being this animal was extremely real to me. It was heartbreaking. I was no longer Josiah the man. I was Josiah the thing. I teared up and shook my hairs off my beak. I looked around and saw no one near me, so I knew it would be safe to fly. Flew up awkwardly. Flying was surreal, and I didn't quite know how to shift my weight just yet. I got some good momentum and flew high in the sky above the clouds so one could see me. I still wasn't fully comfortable with the whole flying aspect of all of this. It was terrifying at times. It was hard to judge. Your speed and landing was a total bitch. I took off in the direction of Lena's trailer park. I hope she is there. The air felt amazing. Flying was a spectacular feeling. I'd had dreams that I could fly in the past, and it definitely didn't feel like this in my dreams. This had a sense of delicacy to it. It wasn't a gliding feeling like I had imagined flying to be, it felt more like a sleek missile ready to barrel into anything in its way. It only took about 10 minutes to get back to the inland empire. I decided to fly over a park across the street from Lena's place. There was an old barn at the far east end of the park, and about 2 football fields worth of grass in front of it. I decided to land on the grass. I knew my landing was going to be rough. It always was. I made sure no one could see me. I circled the grass a couple of times. Damn, I was horrible at this. I aimed down to the ground and, of course, went much faster than I wanted to. I slammed into the earth and rolled like a sack of potatoes falling out of a delivery truck. I decided to transition back to my Mani form immediately, so I wouldn't break my wings. I finally stopped rolling and I was face first in the dirt with a mouth full of mud. Yummy. I got up, spit the mud out, and brushed myself off. Where do my clothes go when I transition? They were always back on my body. Couldn't quite figure out why. Definitely something I need to ask about. I jogged across the street over to Lena's trailer park. I found her trailer and walked up to it. I knocked on the door. There was no answer. I knocked it a couple more times and still there was no answer. I was about to give up when I heard a squawk from above. A beautiful red hawk landed right in front of me. It appeared to be either Yari or Lena. Chapter 2. The mesmerizing hawk stared at me intently. I waited for it to change, to take on its human form. Instead, it stood perfectly still, staring me down. Minutes felt like hours when the bird finally bent down and transitioned into Lena. She still didn't say anything. I could sense she was not sure how to greet me. Quite frankly, I wasn't sure how to greet her either. You look pale, she said. So do you, I replied. She glanced down at the concrete behind me. I thought you had run off or something. She then kicked a pebble across the asphalt. That's not my way. I watched her. She was beautiful. Her jet black hair looked shorter than I remembered. She must have cut her hair since I'd last seen her. She was wearing a black tank top with black stretch pants. I stated the obvious. You cut your hair. Sure did. She looked down and then back up at me. Why didn't you answer your phone calls or answer the door when I came by? I have no idea what I'm doing. Do you think I do? Lena was now visibly upset. Remember, I'm this way because of you. It was what you wanted, Lena. It was what I wanted when Atakai was here. Now I'm not sure. I'm not even sure what our purpose is. Don't look to me for answers. I'm completely in the dark. Yeah, that makes 2 of us, she murmured. Lena opened the door to her trailer. Come in, she said. You know that's a rule? What is? We can't enter a human's home unless we're invited in. Really? It's a stupid rule, but we need to live by it. I entered her trailer home and apparently her parents weren't there. I didn't see any cars parked out front. I don't even know which is myth and which is real. Most of what you find on Wikipedia is myth, but there are some serious truths. I figured the sunlight went out real fast. I mentioned, yeah, that one's a bitch, and the only way I can get out of that one is to transition. I sat down on the couch in the living room and asked, what about the whole drinking blood part? There are ways around that. Eventually, we do need blood or we'll weaken. Are you able to eat other things? Not really. I get very sick. I haven't gotten sick yet. I'm able to eat the same things I had ate before. You're lucky, Lena said as she sat cross-legged in the middle of her floor. She was so much more beautiful than I remembered. Lena caught me looking at her. I could tell it made her a bit uncomfortable. Have you had any human blood? Just yours. I laughed awkwardly. I heard that once you drink blood, your stomach aches for more and your taste buds turn against human food. So, have you had human blood? Lena's fidgety movements made me concerned. I wanted answers to my serious questions. Yes, I have, she whispered under her breath. Wow. I said, flabbergasted. You didn't waste any time. Don't act so holier than thou, Josiah. You'll get a craving, and when it hits, you will have very few choices. Who was it? I probed. Remember our little frat buddies? Yeah. Let's just say Ron's fat ass had enough blood for 4 Mani. Did you kill him? I let him live. Aren't you afraid he'll say something to someone? You do know we have a thing called mind control? The weak Tandra are receptive to it. It actually saves their lives. Otherwise, I would have killed him because he knew too much. So mind control is true? Some of us have it and some of us don't. We are all given gifts from the try it. It's up to us to figure out what they are. Some are prophets, some can heal, some can control minds, and some can read minds. Atticai was able to read minds. That's why he liked you. Lena paused. A longing in her eyes made it clear that she wasn't over Atticai. Where do you think he went? Do you think I killed him? I don't know, Josiah. You pierced his neck real good. Just like humans, none of us are entirely sure what happens to Mani when they die. So no one knows where they go when they disappear? I asked. There are rumors the same way there are with mortals. There are tales of an afterlife, Mani given a second chance, a rebirth, even a chance at being mortal again. But there are not enough facts about it. No one really knows what happens for sure. So when a vampire dies, they just disappear? Yes. Otherwise there would be dead vampires everywhere. By now humans would have had a field day on the autopsies. Is that what happened to Tommy? Is that what happens to the Karnai? Actually no. The Karnai are as close to humans as you can get. Mani history goes back as far as 10,000 years ago, while Karnai history is 500 years young. How's that? I had been under the impression that werewolves and vampires were manifested at the same time. Mani believed that Karnai are an inferior species. Werewolves believe in a lot of myth and untruths. Why do they do that? It's a way to justify giant mistakes they have made so they can be at peace with it. Lena's soft voice filled the room. I could see her desperately trying to answer my questions when she had questions of her own. I know about wanting to feel a sense of peace. For 2 weeks I've tried to find my inner peace. Her lips twitched into a semi-smile. I listened and she continued. The blurring lines of truths and fiction have forced them to live so far outside the Triad's will. Mani believe that Karnai have forgotten what their purpose is. And they are no better than savages. Purpose? I've been trying to figure that one out for 2 weeks. What is our purpose, Lena? Well, you were chosen by the Triad even before you were a Mani. Josiah, there is something greater out there. Something amazing. What was amazing was my other life. My human life. Yeah, but think about it this way, we are wiser than the average living species. We have a window to the world. People live and then die, and in the course of living they know nothing. Perfect ignorant bliss. She smiled at me. You have a way of making this sound almost glamorous. Maybe it is glamorous, Josiah. You've been given a gift. Don't turn your back on the possibilities. Can I ask you a question? Of course. I needed to know more about werewolves, and unfortunately I needed to know about them fast. Do Karnai become stronger once they are turned from Tandra to Karnai? Lena thought for a moment. Not like the Mani, she said. They might get a tad stronger and quicker, but nothing close to what occurs in a Mani's body. After its transformation, Mani become much stronger? I asked. Put it this way, Josiah, I could barely hurt a mouse when I was mortal. The other night I was holding that frat boy Ronnie down like he was a kindergartner. I laughed. So, I basically turned you into a badass. Lena shook her head at me. Yeah, you did, Josiah Rain, and never forget that. Lena then smiled brightly at me. It was the first time in a long time I had seen her smile like that. She was radiant. She had little dimples, and frankly, my heart melted. So what happens when they turn into a full-blown werewolf? I asked. Lena's smile turned serious. When a Karnai turns into a werewolf, it can hold its own against a Mani. Most of the time they are stronger, but Mani can fight with cognitive thought, while werewolves are like wild lions that just want to tear through their prey. There's not much thought to it. What about the full moon? Is that a myth or is it real? Oh, it's real. Too real. It is then, and only then, they turn from Karnai to werewolf. So your everyday Karnai walking around is just slightly stronger than a human. Yup. Lena stared at me with wonder. Why are you asking so many questions? One more question, I said. Why would any Karnai ever fight a Mani in a one-on-one fight? Oh, they do when it's a full moon. I looked up in the sky. It was a half moon. Why the hell would the bartender want to fight me if he knew I was a Mani and would be stronger? He must have thought he could easily take me. I was still getting zero respect, I guess. Being anointed the chosen one didn't mean I was looked at as a badass. What's going on, Josiah? Why are you asking so many questions about the Karnai? Tommy disappeared from the hospital, so I'm thinking he is still alive. I need to find him. He is alive, Josiah. I nearly fell to the ground. What? He is. How do you know? Some have seen him. Where is he? No one knows where he stays, but he is definitely still alive. I had a growing excitement spreading through my body. If anyone could tell me how to defeat a Karnai, it would be Tommy. The problem was I had no idea where he was staying either. He was obviously hiding out for his safety. Lena could see my wheels turning in my head. What is it, Josiah? What's going on? I have a scheduled fight tonight with the Karnai. Lena's mouth literally opened and her eyes stared at me hard. After a second of glaring, she asked, where? Some ranch in Anaheim Hills. You're joking. I wish I was. I hadn't even been out in public for an hour and one of those assholes picked a fight with me. Why would he fight me? It's not a full moon. Because Karnai are arrogant, Josiah. It is why Tommy fought Atakai and got his ass kicked. Karnais think they run the show. To them, we are just gothic freaks who worship the devil. We don't worship the devil, do we? Of course not. But that is what the Karnai has reduced us to in their heads. They can't explain how we are a more advanced race, so they just say our abilities are given to us from the underworld. Gothic freaks or not, I said. No one picks a fight with someone they know can kick their ass. That's the thing, Josiah. They don't think you can kick their ass. It's like they have a jock mentality. They can't accept that the outcast freak show can kick the captain of the football team's ass. Lena got up off the ground and sat next to me on the couch. You know, if you fight him, you cannot use any of your vampire powers as long as he's not a werewolf. Vampire powers? I don't have any vampire powers. You don't know it, but you do. At this point, the only thing you need to worry about is not turning into the eagle. That will freak them out and they will probably think you're Satan himself. If that happens, it could get real ugly. Nice, I said sarcastically. I don't even know how to fully control it. What if it happens by accident? Don't let it, Josiah. You have powers and abilities that no Mani before you has ever had or ever will again. No one knows exactly what you're capable of. You probably have every gift that has ever been bestowed on the Manian ones we still don't know about. So fight the guy straight up. Don't do anything out of the ordinary. Let me ask you this, I said. Can I bite him? Yes, because trust me, that's what he'll try to do to you. You can fight him any way you want. You just can't use what they call magic. They seem to think I'm going to bring a sea of Mani with me to the ranch for backup. You can't show up there alone, because they don't always play fair. They do have a strict rule of only fighting one-on-one, so you won't have to worry about being jumped as long as you don't use any of your special Mani abilities. Do I have to go? I have nothing to prove to those guys. Did one specific Karnai challenge you? Yes. Did you accept? Yes, I stated. Then guess what? You better go, or you will anger the Triad. I don't even know what or who the Triad is. I said defiantly. Is it God or Mother Nature? What is it? It's all those things and more. It's the balance. It's the code we all live by. Lena took my hand. Josiah, you need to respect the Triad more than anything you have ever paid reverence to. If you listen and open yourself up, the Triad will guide you. You need to ask for guidance. Seriously? Ask for guidance? You're making it sound like a cult. Don't be skeptical. You will not be alone tonight. All of us will be there with you. We'll make sure everything goes down the way it should. I looked at Lena. She might have suddenly become tough, but I wanted her to have no part of tonight. Look, I'm going to go alone. I don't want anyone else to get hurt. You know you have a family now. We stick together. Not tonight. Let me deal with this tonight. Don't be fucking macho. We're going with you. What time is the fight? I looked at Lena and lied. 3:30 a.m. I said. Meet me there. I'm going to do a couple of things before I get there. We'll meet you a mile up at 3:15. Who? I asked. Everyone, Wyatt, Hector, Yari, and me. I didn't think having just 4 people there was going to be very much help. Might as well just go by myself. Sounds like a plan. There was no way I was going to have Lena go tonight. I better go, I said. It was nearing midnight, and if I was going to fight someone, I needed to at least prepare myself the way I did a mixed martial arts fight. I needed to go to my Chapter 3. After I left Lena, I transitioned into the Eagle. I didn't have a car and walking to my old gym would take entirely too long. I could feel myself growing stronger and sleeker with this art of flying. The wind alone was exhilarating. When I arrived at the gym, I noticed the second floor window was open. Challenged myself and flew into the small opening. I made it unscathed but landed hard into the concrete of the gym and rolled into the wall like a ton of bricks. I was dizzy and disoriented, but I found the strength to turn back into my Mani form. The gym was dark, but there was an eerie glow came from a street light. Outside, I searched high and low, it was empty. It had been a long, strange night so far, and I thought I should stretch and meditate to make sure I was ready. I warmed up like I would before any fight. I worked out my legs, punched the big bag and let my heavy emotions dictate my moves. Tears ran down my face. I swung over and over as if every punch were the pendulum to turn back time to take it all back. Leave some for the fight. A faceless voice said from a dark area of the gym. Who is that? Called out. You cannot expect to beat a werewolf if you exhaust yourself before you actually fight. Who are you? I said again. There was a man sitting in a chair in the dark. I'm Mr. fucking Miyagi. Holy shit. I knew who it was. Karate Kid was our favorite movie growing up. Tommy, I yelled. Tommy turned on the lamp beside his chair. In the flesh. Or should I call you Cairo? Cairo is dead. I will forever be Tommy. Tommy was still pretty scratched and bruised. It had been a couple of weeks, and his scars still looked fresh. Are you alive? You mean am I some kind of carnai ghost that has come back to haunt you? Tommy laughed. No. I'm alive. I'm as alive as you used to be. What the hell happened to you? You must smell it. The carnai at the bar did. Josiah, you have no idea how many times I almost told you the truth. Couldn't. So what happened? Did you go willingly or unwillingly? Tommy was obviously asking if I had chosen to be Mani or was it forced upon me. I didn't choose it. That choice was definitely out of my hands. That's not the worst of it. What's the worst of it? I don't know what you know about Mani lore, but apparently you're the chosen one. I know Josiah. How do you know? Your hawk friend might have had something to do with it. Yari, you've spoken to Yari? When? The last thing I remember was this beautiful red-headed woman dropping me off in front of the emergency room. Before she left, I asked her name. She said, Yari. Did you know Amani was saving you? I didn't know much of anything. This 10-foot-tall motherfucker kicked the crap out of me not even an hour after we had our MMA match. The guy looked like a freaking scarecrow. His name is Atakai, I said. I knew who he was. And you fought him anyway? Why not? Who was he to tell me what the rules were? Apparently he was the judge, jury, and executioner, I said. He was only the judge and jury. Goliath was the executioner. Who the hell is Goliath? He is another 7-foot beast, but he's not a twig like Atakai. He weighs almost 500 pounds. So I take it that Goliath wasn't his birth name. It's the only name that fits. After your friend Atakai was done with me. Trust me, he's not my friend. Anyway, I had the pleasure of getting my ass kicked further by Goliath. That doesn't make any sense that Karnai do that to their own people. We know the score if we challenge Amani and lose. That doesn't make any sense. What a backwards way of dealing with shit. They should tend to you. That is what Mani would do. Nobody said Karnais were rocket scientists. Tommy got up and walked toward me. He grabbed a pair of trainer's gloves and motioned for me to get into the ring with him. He still looked fit. I made my way through the ropes and met Tommy in the middle of the ring. I'm sorry I wasn't there. You have nothing to be sorry about. Tommy gave me the motion to punch his hand. I threw a right cross and our gloves popped. Good shot, Josiah. Continued to do combinations that Tommy and I had worked on in the past. You know, Josiah, that 7-foot bean pole was actually fighting in your honor. I didn't ask him to, I said. He just wanted an excuse to fight. Maybe, but in the end he was defending you. All of this is crazy. I threw another 4-punch combination with the last punch making a popping sound that echoed throughout the gym. The try it used him as a pawn to get me. The more I think about it, it's pretty fucked up how bad he was mind-fucked by the whole thing. Tommy put his gloves down. Did you kill him? I had to. He was trying to kill 2 people I care deeply about. Tommy nodded his head. I think Yari had let him in on all the details, but he just wanted to hear it from me. So you're the fucking white eagle that's in all the stories. That's unbelievable. You have no idea how huge that is. It sure beats a mixed martial arts title. Can I ask you a question? I looked at Tommy. I didn't want to rub salt into Tommy's wounds, but this had really been bugging me ever since I knew Tommy had been a werewolf. Why would you fight me in a sport that is designed for humans? Because I was a Tandra when I began my mixed martial arts training. I didn't become a Karnai till 5 years ago. I worked too hard at the sport to give it up. I wasn't much stronger. But being a Karnai made you stronger? A little bit. And you don't see anything wrong with that? If you want me to say sorry, Josiah, I will. But I think the try it gave me the punishment I deserved. I was pretty much left for dead. The hospital said you were dead. Did you die? I'm not sure what happened. One moment I'm being left at the door of the hospital and the next moment I wake up in the woods with dead rabbits and squirrels all around me. You obviously turned into a werewolf the following night. The following night was a full moon. I realize that. I'm just not sure how it happened. So then what did you do when you turned back into a human? I went looking for you. I was at the house and Yari was there to see you and said you weren't answering the door for anyone. She told me that you needed time. When was this? About 2 weeks ago. She told me everything. She told me about Atakai trying to kill a girl named Lena. She said how you saved both Lena and her. She mentioned that you had been turned into a vampire. I felt awful for you, but I knew if anyone could help you deal with it, it was me. I would have answered the door for you. You should have knocked. I did knock a couple times, but you didn't answer. I figured you were dealing with a lot of major shit and I would speak to you when you were ready. You being alive trumps anything I would have to deal with. I just figured our time would come. I wasn't going anywhere. My eyes began to well up. Tommy, they pronounced you dead. I thought I had lost everything. Tommy put his hand on my shoulder. I know, Josiah, I should have come to you sooner. We shared an awkward silent moment that neither of us was used to. Tommy broke the silence with, "Show me the white eagle." Seriously, I said. Why not? I'm curious what you look like. I don't feel like it right now. I really wasn't in the mood. Come on, Josiah. Look at me. I'm beat up and broken down. I don't ever ask for much. I looked at Tommy. His puppy dog eyes and bruised face and body were pulling at my heartstrings. He didn't ask for much, so I decided I would do it. All right. I'll do it this once. But this isn't some kind of routine I'm going to pull out at parties to get you laid. Very funny. I gave Tommy a look that said, you better enjoy this, 'cause this is the only time I'm going to do this just for the hell of it. I closed my eyes and concentrated. Immediately, I felt a rushing wind come over me and I dropped to the floor. I squawked as if to say, here you go. I was the white eagle. I took off in flight, trying to navigate through the confinement of the gym. I nearly hit the ceiling and the walls right before I flew smack into Tommy's arms. I was trying to land on his shoulder, but instead plowed into him. Damn, I was awful at this. Holy shit. Tommy held me in his arms and petted my feathers. You're beautiful, Josiah. You have any idea what this means? Tommy let me go and I flew down on the concrete gym floor and transitioned back to Amani. What does what mean? It means that you shouldn't waste your time fighting Karnais that you meet in a bar. How do you know about that anyway? Let's just say I have been in the shadows. Seriously? You have been following me. Someone needed to make sure you didn't do anything stupid. Well, you did a great job with that. I said sarcastically. You were bound to get challenged by a Karnai out of the gate. Consider it a rite of passage. I don't need a rite of passage. I think defeating Atakai proved that I can take care of myself. The Karnai and Mani feud is epic, Josiah. You might have defeated a Mani stud like Atakai, but now you need to take care of your business with a Karnai. Just kick his ass and get the hell out of there before they challenge you a second time. If you don't leave after the first fight, you'll be there all night. Trust me, you want no part of Goliath. Was he that giant bald guy back at the bar? Did he have a long braided goatee? Yup, I said. That's Goliath. And he is as filthy as they come. He doesn't play by the rules and he never quits a fight, no matter how long it takes. Will he be there? Oh, that grizzly bear wouldn't miss a duel for his life. Tommy slipped through the ropes and hopped on the concrete floor where I was standing. Any advice for me about the bartender? The owner challenged you? Tommy's laugh echoed through the gym. What's so funny? You'll have no problem kicking his ass. He's all talk. A couple of high kicks should finish him off pretty quick. What time is the battle? I looked at Tommy. His bruises and scratches seemed fresh. I didn't want him to get hurt anymore. This wasn't his fight. It was mine and I fucking can take care of myself. It's scheduled for 3:30. I'm going to meet up with Yari and we'll meet up with you before. You don't want to walk in there alone. Tommy, you can't go. You have been banned by them. I just want to see their faces when I show up alive. You think that would be safe? Who gives a shit about safety? Those assholes left me for dead. I took a deep breath. I'm going to take off and get some fresh air. No more working out. Go have a Slurpee or a Red Bull. Find a nice tree and mentally go over your takedowns and submission moves. You probably won't even have to use them, but you can never be too careful. Will do, Tommy. Will do. I transitioned and flew out the same window I had come in through. Chapter 4. I took Tommy's advice and flew over to Hillcrest Park in Fullerton. When I got there, I transitioned to Monty and spent about an hour lying under a tree, getting my head right, getting myself in the right frame of mind to take on another immortal creature. The reality of the situation was serious because I was not sure how to prepare for the fight. Therefore, I prepared the same way I would for any fight. I meditated and walked through my takedowns and submissions. I went over and over them until I knew I was ready. I thought about Lena and how amazing she looked tonight. I couldn't help but feel an immense bond with her. Why? Was it because I was the one who turned her into Amani? Or was it because of something else, something deeper and less tangible? All I knew was that she would have no part of tonight. I would not allow it. No one would be involved except for me. I glanced at my cell phone and realized I had 45 minutes until the fight was time to go. I transformed into the Eagle and flew to Taco Bell to get my truck. I circled the parking lot waiting for the night manager to get into his car and leave. When the coast was clear, I decided to try something different. I tried transitioning back to Monty simultaneously as I landed. Kind of worked. I didn't land perfectly on my feet, but at least I didn't fall down. Stumbled a little but caught my balance. I opened my truck and was pleased no one had stolen my radio since I had left it open. I reached down and grabbed my keys from under my seat. I started my truck and took off out of the parking lot. I drove up Imperial Street toward the mountains. Sure enough, there was a giant ranch right before the mountain trail started. I guess that was Barner's ranch. I parked my truck at the bottom and walked up the side of the road by myself. I looked up into the dark sky. Well, try it, I called out. If I'm the guy you want for all of this, then keep me safe. I continued to walk and I figured I should cover all my bases. I looked up to the sky one more time. Whoever is in charge of all this, keep me safe. I began my trek up a dirt path that led to a large ranch. I could hear Karnai shouting and laughing like a lynch mob ready to jump me from all sides. Instead, they kept their distance while taunting me from dark places along the road. That's all they did, taunt. I was wearing the same blue jeans and black t-shirt that I had on earlier in the evening. I had to admit I had never felt this way before an altercation. I almost felt like nothing could hurt me, as if I was protected by some supernatural force. I approached a grassy field at the north end of the ranch. I stood there, alone. On the other side of the field appeared to be at least 30 to 40 Karnai. The area had about half a dozen giant rocks scattered throughout. They almost appeared to be boulders. Not sure what kind of landscaping design this was, but it was definitely different. The noise and laughter soon stopped as I approached. It was obvious these ignoramuses had no idea who I was. They all looked at me amused, as if I had walked up to my own execution. I like to be underestimated. I like that a lot. In the middle of this hairy, dirty mob stood my opponent, the bartender. Don't think he was 30 yet. But hell, he was a Karnai. He could have been this age for 300 years. He made his way to the front. I was less impressed with the bartender's stature and more impressed with the 7-foot-plus wild beast in the back. It appeared Goliath had made his way to the show. Something told me he was not here to be a spectator. You alone? The bartender asked with a nervous crackle in his voice. Yes. I said, staring directly at him. I was amused that he appeared anxious. You really are new at this, he laughed. All his carni cohorts laughed like a grisly choir of deadheads. You are either a badass or just stupid. I would go with the first, I said plainly. I walked a little closer to him. There was about 75 feet separating us. So how do we do this? You're asking me how to fight? He turned to the others and laughed. No, I definitely don't need any advice on how to fight. I'm going to kick your ass, and I'm going to do it rather quickly. What I do want to know is this. Once I'm done with you, is that going to be it? You sound pretty confident, bloodsucker. It's not confidence, hairball. It's what I know. What I know is someone like you can't last 2 minutes with someone like me. I could kick this pretty boy's ass, a woman yelled out from the crowd. Are we sure that this is even a man? I looked at the woman. She was at least 50 and about 50 pounds overweight. I smiled bemusedly at her. Listen, ma'am, do yourself a favor and don't come anywhere near me. Ma'am? The woman said. This little twig just called me ma'am. Little twig? I decided to take off my shirt so everyone could see I was definitely not a twig. What? The bartender said. You think because you spent some time in the gym that it matters out here on the ranch. You're going to need to do more than just flex, pretty boy. I stared at the grisly mob. They looked like something out of a bad 70s movie starring Billy Jack. Kick his disgusting money ass, the 50-year-old woman yelled out. Let's get this going, a man from the mob yelled out. Kick his ass, Brian. Another echoed in. Brian, I yelled out. Your name is Brian? Why the hell do you care? When I write my memoirs, I want to be able to call you by name. I turned to the mob and said, so if one of you can grab a piece of paper and pass it around, could everyone sign it with your first and last names? Promise you, we'll all become infamous after tonight. Kill him, a man from the back yelled out. I looked over. It was Goliath. Kill him? Damn, this was real. This wasn't a stupid college fight. This was as real as the night I became a Mani. At least then I had Yari on my side. Tonight by choice I was alone. I slapped my body all over to get my blood flowing, doing it the same way I would before a mixed martial arts fight. I didn't know if I had blood anymore, but slapping myself was doing the trick. I was ready to go. Here we go. I circled Brian. I had him come out to me by nodding my head and motioning from home to come and get me. This was a safety measure. It is common to circle each other in a fight, so being that I was outnumbered 30-1, it was in my best interest to move the fight away from his friends. You never want to turn your back to a group that wants to rip off your head. These guys not only wanted to rip it off, they wanted to display it at their bar. It's showtime, you Mani piece of shit. Brian charged at me. Focus my eyes on my opponent, and this is the part where everything goes in slow motion. All my life, whenever I fight, it would seem as if time would almost stand still. My brain goes into what I call goodwill hunting mode. I am able to dissect and break down my opponent's weaknesses in milliseconds. This would allow me to do the most damage by delivering the least amount of energy. Brian, my werewolf friend, had charged me like a bull, so I knew very little force would knock him down. As he came up on me, I bent down and swept my left leg and tripped him. I hit his leg with an extreme amount of force. He did it faceplant into the grassy dirt field. Brian pushed himself out of the mud and got to his knees. He hollered out, "You better not use any of your Mani wizardry. The second you do, all bets are off." I didn't know how to do anything other than transition to an eagle. Even that was a challenge for me. "You're lucky, barback boy," I said as I circled around him on the ground. "I don't know any magic tricks. I'm just one tough motherfucker. We'll see about that." He got to his feet and came at me again. This time, instead of charging me like a bull, he ran up to me and held firm like a horse being pulled in by a lasso. I just stayed there and did not waste a drop of energy. He was bobbing and weaving like Cassius Clay on speed. He was show boating for his carni audience. He began peekabooing with me. That's when a fighter puts his hands to his face and then drops them so he is vulnerable to simulate a game of peekaboo with a child. All I was doing was timing each peekaboo. Each one was 2 seconds faster. The last one he did was 10 seconds, so this one should be 8 seconds. Counted to 7 in my head, and I knew it would take only a second to high kick him like Tommy had told me to do. I raised my leg and high kicked him. right in his smug face and just laid him out. I had completely knocked him out. The Karnai ran over to their fallen friend and surrounded him like they were protecting a piece of meat from an opposing animal. Get him, one guy yelled out. He used Mani magic. No, I didn't. I did a standard high kick made famous by the Nintendo video game Shaq Fu. Someone take him to the hospital, a large, toothless man yelled out. Wait a second. Your boy is done. I used no magic. As a matter of fact, I barely used human fighting. Isn't this the part where you kick his ass some more and leave him for dead like you did Tommy? He knows Cairo, the same toothless man yelled out. Nobody touches Brian, Goliath yelled out from the back. I'll take care of him after I kick this pipsqueak's ass. Goliath stretched his arms and walked towards me. Goliath, is it? I asked in a cocky but polite tone. You heard of me? Goliath smiled from the corner of his mouth. Not until tonight. You're kind of hard to miss. This guy was over 7 feet tall and over 450 pounds. He was the largest man or thing I had ever seen. He was wearing cut-off jeans with a Harley-Davidson t-shirt that was 2 sizes too small. I looked at his feet. Of course he had 2-inch thick Doc Martens so he could pound a guy even harder. Unfortunately, I was going to be that guy. I wasn't looking forward to feeling his size 18 shoe crushed against my skull. His face was scarred in the way only a street fighter would appreciate. I guarantee one of your Bruce Lee kicks won't even faze me, little man. He then pulled out a chain that was apparently in his back pocket. I looked up at the moon to make sure it was still a half moon. I couldn't be too cautious. I would hate to fight this guy when he was a werewolf. That's okay, I said. I didn't even break a sweat. My adrenaline was amped. I just floored a guy with 2 kicks. I didn't care that this guy was twice my size. All right, I said. Round 2. Goliath stood there like a rhinoceros. His hands were up and his feet were shoulder-width apart. It was obvious that he wanted me to strike first. A guy like this would wait for his prey to make a mistake and then pretty much sit on him and beat the crap out of him. He had one giant problem. I wasn't going to make any mistakes. I knew if I made just one it would be the end of me. Come and get me, he shouted. Nah, big boy. If you want a piece of this, you're going to have to come and get it. I mirrored his fighting stance and stood like a statue. Let's go, Josiah Rain, Mr. MMA fighter. You had 4-1 record and got your ass beat by Cairo himself. This overgrown gorilla did know me. Oh, I said. You know me. Feel honored. Oh, I know you all right. I know that Tommy kicked your ass. That he did, Sasquatch. But I've ironed out a couple of flaws in my technique since then. The lying flat on your ass technique wasn't working for you? All of Goliath's Karnai folk burst out laughing. Just to let you know, I was the one who beat Tommy to death. And if a bitch ass like Tommy could handle a fluff like you, then this should make for a short fight. I guess that doesn't say much for your bartender friend, does it? Goliath didn't like that comment. He broke his stance and came at me. I leaped forward with a roundhouse kick. I missed because Goliath moved out of the way. Goliath was agile. I was shocked. When my kick missed, I fell to the ground. Goliath jumped on top of me. This guy was the strongest opponent I had ever felt. He picked me up right up off the ground by my neck. He held me up in the air with my legs dangling. I gasped for air. He walked me by my neck to an old eucalyptus tree that was near the flower bed. With one slick motion, he threw me like a frisbee against the tree. I hit the tree head first about 6 feet up and then dropped to the ground. I heard screams of excitement from the crowd. They were laughing at my expense. Damn, I hated to hear laughing and cheering at my expense. I was filled with anger. I turned around and opened my mouth and I felt my incisors protrude out to razor-sharp blades. I had never felt that sensation before. Felt like I was flexing my teeth. He's vampiring up, a man yelled from the crowd. Let him. Goliath bellowed. That will give us reason to rip him to shreds. I lunged at Goliath. I grabbed both of his ears with my hands and headbutted him right in his nose. Blood sprayed everywhere. Some got on my tongue. Well, it tasted delicious and I felt an erection in my pants. Just the smell seemed to quench my every desire. Werewolf's bled? Goliath rolled backward and landed on his feet. You taste good, I said. I grabbed my groin. Now I'm ready to play. Goliath dove at me. I jumped 10 feet in the air and hit the peak of my height. It felt as if I floated in midair for a second. I came down hard and fell to my feet. What the hell was that? Someone yelled. He just flew, that motherfucker just flew. Another hollered out. When I landed, I collapsed on the ground. I had no idea what had just happened. My body just defied gravity. I almost couldn't tell because I had been flying all night as an eagle. I had most definitely floated. No one told me that could happen in human form. I didn't have the time to analyze what had happened. There was a 450-pound man ready to take my head off. Goliath jumped on top of me. It felt like I was on the bottom of a 10-person dog pile. He was hitting the back of my head with elbows mixed martial art style. I felt a sea of elbows hitting my neck, head and shoulder blades. I heard the strangest crushing and tearing sound come from the back of my head. He had cracked the back of my head open. I was disoriented. There was a large boulder to the left of me. As I continued to get the crap beat out of me, I stared at the large boulder. I felt helpless. Goliath was heavy and strong. I wished that boulder would just fly up and knock the fat motherfucker off me. I stared at the boulder as if I felt my will breaking. I continued to stare at that rock. In my mind, I was pleading for help. I zeroed in on the boulder. I then zeroed in on the crowd that was cheering for my demise. Something miraculous was about to happen. The boulder lifted off the ground and into the air, and then it shot 40 feet in the air and crashed into the crowd, knocking Karnai over like bowling pins. I don't know how I did it. He's using magic, a bearded man yelled. Goliath grabbed me by both arms and stood me straight up. My head was killing me. Why the hell would you do that? He yelled at me. Do what? I yelled back at him. Use your bullshit money magic. Now we have every right to kill you. Goliath held me tight in his grasp. I struggled, but it was no use. He had me in the worst bear hug known to man. I looked over his shoulder and tried to resist his squeeze. I could see the chain that he originally had at the beginning of the fight about 15 feet behind him. He must have dropped it. As he held me, I focused my attention on the chain. I imagined the chain flying in the air. I strained my eyes. Nothing happened. How did I make the boulder move? I looked at the chain and then quickly looked at Goliath. The chains whipped off the dirt, flew up in whipping motion and wrapped around Goliath's neck. It wrapped tight. Real fucking tight. A woman yelled. Get him. He keeps using magic. Goliath ripped the chain off his neck. No one fucking touches him, he's mine, Goliath gasped. Goliath threw the chain 50 feet in the air like a boomerang. So it's going to be like that. You blood-sucking turd. I had no idea how I was making things move with my mind or how I floated in midair. This was definitely not in the vampire handbook that Lena had explained to me. Look, I called out. I'm not trying to use magic. I have no idea how I'm doing what I'm doing. Shut up, Whitey, Goliath screamed. You're finished. Goliath charged me. I jumped up and again I floated up 10 feet in the air. But this time I went faster and my body was jerkier. I landed 20 feet away from him. What the hell are you? Goliath seemed angry and confused. You're only supposed to fly when you transition. What kind of bullshit is this? Look, I don't know what's going on. You have broken every rule in the book. I don't care if you don't know what the hell you're doing. You're going to die tonight. Goliath rushed me again. This time I stood my ground. I high-kicked him the same way I did Brian, but with a much different result. Goliath caught my foot. I fell backwards but did not hit the ground. Instead, I spun around in the air. Goliath had my foot, and he was strong enough to hold me in midair by my freaking foot. He spun me around like a lasso. I whizzed through the air and had the sensation of flying as an eagle. Without warning, that is exactly what happened. I transitioned into the eagle. Goliath let go of me in shock. What the fuck is that thing? He called out. At first, I hadn't realized I had transitioned, but as I flapped my arms, it had been my long wing. I was about 200 feet in the air. I circled the werewolf party and squawked as loud as I could. I had broken every rule tonight, but had no idea how I was doing it. I couldn't be criticized or judged for that. The Triad had to know I didn't do any of that on purpose. I needed to get out of here, and that I did. I flew out of the ranch. I went straight into the sky as high as I could like a rocket. The wind got colder and colder the higher I went. The air felt incredible. I felt incredible. Had never felt so alive. I had never felt so much excitement. The euphoria was Exhilarating, too exhilarating. I stopped thinking about Josiah the eagle and I began reflecting on Josiah the man. That was another huge mistake. Somehow I had transitioned back into my Mani form. How did I know this? I looked down and saw my human legs. I was a mile high without wings. I was a mile high and had no idea how to fly in my Mani form. I soon hit the apex of my ascendance and stood still in midair. For that brief moment, as I switched from ascending to the certain fall that had awaited me, I had an amazing moment of clarity. I felt as if everything in the world made sense. That must be the feeling one gets right before he dies. Didn't last long because I fell, and fall I did. My emotions went from euphoria to absolute terror. I was thousands of feet above earth, and now I was dropping at a rate I couldn't even fathom. The night was completely dark, and I felt as if I was falling into a black hole. But I knew better. I was falling to the earth, an earth that would crush and destroy me on contact. What the hell was I to do? I need to fly. I was to make contact with the ground soon. The fear was indescribable. I couldn't think clearly. I knew I needed to transition. Was this a faith issue? Was this a test by the triad? Was I falling to the earth because I was allowing fear to beat me? The wind was choking me. I decided to look up and get a giant gasp of air as if I was going underwater. I gulped as much air as I could and then I looked down. I concentrated on becoming the eagle. Nothing was happening. Why wasn't I transitioning? I remained calm. Looked up and took in another gulp of air. I spread my arms out and began flapping them, praying they would turn into wings. I looked down. It was no longer a black hole. I could see a sea of lights below me. I was getting closer to the earth. Dear God, this can't be the way this ends. I straightened my legs as if I was doing a jackknife into a pool. I raised my arms straight up. Then something miraculous happened. I felt my body slowing down, as if I was a race car that had taken my foot off the pedal. As I slowed down, I could see shapes as well as lights below me. I knew I was getting closer and closer to the ground. With all that I had and every bit of will, I stretched my arms out as hard as I could. I had nothing to lose. If it didn't work, I was going to die anyway. Then it happened. I could feel my body taking control of my speed. I had control. I freaking had control. I was no longer falling. I had somehow changed direction again. I was now going up again. I needed to reel this in. I couldn't let myself rise out of control again. I wasn't going to let it happen. I had some bearing of control this time. It was like trying to ride an out of control horse. The problem was I was the horse. I concentrated, breathed and did all I could to recall the feelings I have had as the eagle to try to control my flying. I had seen Superman and Greatest American Hero. They made flying look easy. I needed to relax. And relax I did. The more relaxed I was, the easier it was to control my body. I was now flying. I was finally in absolute control. I was flying, not as an eagle, but as me, Josiah Rain. I felt power underneath my feet. My energy was allowing me fly. It was the most amazing feeling I had ever felt. This was more exhilarating than flying as an eagle. I could see my own arms, my own legs. Felt similar to swimming but a lot more freeing. When I am the eagle, I feel light and delicate. Times I get the sense of power when I strike into a person or object. But flying as a Mani felt like the dreams I used to have when I was mortal. I felt powerful and alive. And yes, I felt like Superman. I tilted my arms and leveled out my body so I was flying parallel to the earth. I allowed myself to drop and then I would ascend. Flying felt like having 10 orgasms back to back. It was the biggest rush I have ever had. It was more exciting than all my experiences combined. Felt like the most powerful man in the world. That was the problem. I was no longer a man, I was a vampire, and now I could fly. Chapter 5. I flew around for the next 2 hours in my Mani form, arms and legs flapping in the wind. I noticed I was less anxious about flying when I was lower to the ground, but I was risking being seen by the public. So I was going to have to find a happy medium with all this flying business. I needed to fly low enough to feel comfortable and high enough to not be seen by the naked eye. The sun would be coming out soon. I decided once again to go find Lena. I knew I had left her and everyone else stranded a mile down from the ranch. Doubted she was still there. I checked there anyway just to be sure. I scoped up and down from the sky and saw no one within 2 miles of the ranch. Decided to fly over to her trailer community. Hopefully she had gone back home. I got to the trailer park in minutes. I spotted her mobile home from the air and noticed a car parked in the driveway. Her parents must have come home. I decided to land in the park across the street. Seemed like it was the best spot because of the large amount of soft grass. I circled the park as I had done earlier in the night. It was different this time because I wasn't circling the park as an eagle but as a man. I was getting better at landing as the eagle. This was a completely different ballgame trying to land with legs. As an eagle I can pull back and delicately hit the earth. I had no idea at what speed I should hit the ground flying as a mani. I didn't want to crush my legs on contact. There was a barn at the far east end of the park. It was some sort of petting zoo for kids in the area. As I circled the barn I could see some barrels of hay to the left of the barn. I decided to aim my landing in that direction. Hay on top of grass was double the protection. I continued to circle around the barn, each time making the circle smaller and smaller. Each time I circled, I inched my way closer and closer to the earth. I was about 20 feet from the ground. I needed to land and I was becoming apprehensive. I dipped my legs down a tad, as if I was jumping off a roof of a house. That was not a good idea. I pulled back my motion as I got closer and closer to the ground. Right next to the barn was a scarecrow and I used it as my focal point. I pulled up hard but I knew my speed was still too fast. Hit the barrels of hay much harder than I intended to. I curled my body up in a ball instinctively to protect my vital areas. All that did was make me roll instantly when I hit the ground. And roll I did. I rolled out of control and crashed directly into the barn. I had hoped the barn would stop my momentum. No such luck. My body broke through the wooden walls as if I was a tank. I wrapped my hands around my head on contact to prevent further injury. Finally I stopped and laid there flat on my back. I looked up and saw a brown horse looking down at me. It stared at me with a bewildered look as if to say, "Who the hell are you?" I got to my feet as quickly as I could. My body ached all over. I had put my body through the ringer tonight. Although I was in immense pain, my adrenaline was still off the charts. I felt like I had just drunk 10 Red Bulls. I wiped off the dirt and hay, cracked my neck and walked out of the barn. The cold morning air hit my face. The sun would be up shortly. I walked across the grassy field and headed to Lena's trailer park. I felt like a superhero as I exited the park and went across the street. Cars passed me and I had for the first time the feeling of immortality. I felt nothing could ultimately hurt me. Felt insanely great. I wasn't even sure if Lena was home. Lena's parents were home and that changed everything. I went to the side of the house and tapped the window to her bedroom. After just one tap, the lights in her room came on. Lena pulled back the curtain and I saw her face. She looked concerned and very beautiful. She opened the window just enough to be heard. "Josiah," she whispered. "Are you okay?" "I'm more than okay," I said louder than I planned to. You'll wake up Creepazoid." She opened the window more. "Screw him. Let's get out of here," I whispered back. Lena looked behind me. "Where's your car?" "I'm not going to need that anymore." Lena looked at me puzzled. "Get some clothes together," I said. "Let's get out of here." Lena had a spark in her eye. "Really?" "Of course really. You don't need to live here anymore. I have plenty of room. You can stay with me." Lena's face looked like a child's on Christmas morning. "Hold on." She left for a moment and came back. She already had a suitcase packed with clothes in her arms and handed it to me through the window. All of a sudden I heard a deep voice. "Who the hell are you talking to, little woman?" Lena quickly jumped out the window and fell into my arms. We swiftly hid behind the trailer. We could hear Lena's stepdad in her room. He was walking around. "That little whore snuck out again," he said in a loud voice. He turned off the light. I looked at Lena and I couldn't help but have the biggest smile on my face. She could see the excitement in my eyes. "What the hell happened tonight? Did you fight?" "Yes. I must have had a lot of scrapes and bruises." "Did you win?" "Yes and no," I said. "Well, you're alive. That's the only thing that matters." Lena looked at the back of my head. "Josiah, your head is cracked open. Do you feel all right?" Goliath apparently had done a number to the back of my head. "Let's get out of here. We need to take care of that." "Okay," I said, Put your arms around my neck. Why? Lena looked at me curiously. Just do it, I said. Lena wrapped her arms around my neck. Hold on tight. I raised my arms as if I was a superhero preparing to fly. What the heck are you doing? Lena gasped. I raised my arms again this time. With some oomph. I had a small problem. Nothing was happening. Lena looked at me as if I had lost my mind. Josiah, what are you doing? Hold on, I said. Watch. I raised my arms again. This time I made a fist as that would help. Again nothing happened. What are you trying to do? Lena asked, laughing. I'm trying to fly. I stammered. Well, Lena said sweetly, you'll need to transition to do that. Then we heard someone open the front door. Transition, Josiah. Lena immediately transitioned into a red hawk. Damn it. I wanted to show her I could fly. Why couldn't I fly? Lena flew away, leaving her suitcase behind. I could hear Lena's stepdad getting closer. I transitioned to the eagle. I grabbed the suitcase in my beak and flew out of the area like a speeding bullet. Why yeah, now I was the superhero.